The 2004 NASCAR Nextel Cup Series season will be remembered for many things. Dale Jr. winning his first Daytona 500, NASCAR's peak, Dale Jr.'s charming words on live TV, maybe his Hendrick Motorsports tragic plane crash. But everyone will remember the 2004 season because of this. The start of the chase for the Cup. The format that after 26 of the 36 points-paying races would reset the top 10 drivers in points and would have a 10-race shootout for the championship. And this year, the record books would record Kurt Busch as the 2004 champion, but what if we rewrote history and ran the season without the chase and went back to the traditional 36-race format? Would Kurt Busch still be champion, or would someone else capture the title? In this series, we will break down every season from 2004 to the present day to see what could have happened without the chase, or playoffs as they are called nowadays. To start off, let's see how the points were distributed at this time. First received 180 points, second 170, and would count down by 5 points all the way down to sixth, 155 points, and would count down by 4 points to 11th, 130 points, and would go down by 3 points to last, 43rd place, 34 points, and 5 points for leading a lap, and 5 more points for leading the most laps. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. In the first 6 races, we would have 4 different winners, with Dale Earnhardt Jr. winning the Daytona 500 3 years after his dad's passing, and then ripping off another win 3 weeks later at Atlanta. Then Matt Kenseth winning the second and third races at the Thriller of Rockingham and then at Las Vegas the next week. Jimmie Johnson would win race 5 at Darlington, and the next week at Bristol being conquered by Kurt Busch. After these 6 races, the field would be pretty tight, with the top 9 drivers being within 1 race of each other, from the leader Matt Kenseth to 9th place Elliott Sadler. To give a short explanation of what I mean by this, most points you could gain in a race at this time was 190, and the least being 34. And 190 minus 34 equals 156. But at this point, it would be too early to tell who the real contenders would be. 9th place Elliott Sadler would barely win the 7th race at Texas over Casey Kane, and would follow it up with finishes at 12th, 28th, 22nd, 12th, and 5th in the following 5 races, and would improve to 7th in points. Martinsville winner Rusty Wallace would finish 5th, 33rd, 35th, 16th, and 10th in the other 5 races, and would vault up from 16th to 13th in the standings. Jeff Gordon would go back-to-back at races 9 and 10 to vault himself 8 places to 4th. Richmond winner Dale Jr. would score his 3rd win on the season and capture the points lead, and Coke 600 winner Jimmie Johnson would promote himself to 2nd in points, trailing leader Dale Jr. by a mere 5 points. After the first 12 races, 4 contenders would emerge, being Dale Jr., Jimmie Johnson, Matt Kenseth, and Jeff Gordon, all separated by just 144 points. Jeff Gordon's gap to the top over the next 6 races would increase to 242 points, despite going back-to-back at Sonoma and Daytona, but in the other 4 races would be inconsistent and record only 2 top 5s and have 2 DNFs to go with it. Matt Kenseth would only record 1 top 10 finish in the next 6 races and would have a very bad stretch of luck.
Little bit from Tony Stewart, who fires it in
Casey
3.
Kane lost it.
Oh, there's oil on the racetrack.
Use my time. You got it.
Oil on the racetrack.
Mark Tony Stewart gets by. I think Matt Kenseth may have went up and brushed the wall.
Oh my gosh. I've never brushed the wall there.
Yeah, look, lots of damage.
He's killed that right front of that car.
What an incredible turn of events.
Tripp's teammate, Dale Earnhardt.
Oh, trouble. Turn two. 2 cars.
Ward Burton for
3
the 2nd
cars.
time this weekend. He takes Kenseth with him.
4
Ricky
cars.
Craven, Kenny Schrader. And the defending Cup champions car is wrecked at the bottom of turn 2. Saw Matt trying to refire it, but there's a lot of damage to the left front.
Kenseth would DNF twice and tumble down to 5th in the standings, 400 points off of the lead and now out of contention. Jimmie Johnson would win at Pocono and follow this up with 4 straight top 5 finishes to move into the points lead by 105 points over Dale Jr. That in this 6 race period would have finishes of 3rd, 6th, 21st, 11th, 3rd, and 22nd to fall down to 2nd in points. Contenders Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. would encounter their own inconsistencies in the next 6 races. Jr. would win race 24 at the Bristol night race, but would be very inconsistent and have 5 other finishes outside of the top 20. And Jimmy Johnson would win at Pocono, but in the other races would have just 1 other top 5 and 3 DNFs and fall out of the points lead. Jeff Gordon would establish himself as a championship contender by winning the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis and recording 3 other top 10 results in this time to move into the point lead over Jimmy Johnson and Dale Jr. He would have a 24-point advantage over Jimmy Johnson and 75 over Dale Jr. In the next 6 races, only 1 race was won by a contender, and that was the race at Talladega, being won by Dale Jr. Dale Jr. would also record 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s in the other 5 races, being the most consistent of the 3, and would recover to second, just 1 point off of Gordon. Jeff Gordon would have only 3 top 10s and a DNF in 6 races, but would do enough to retain his points lead by a very thin margin. Meanwhile, Jimmy Johnson's season would seem to fall apart.
To the drivers on the field, 41 that they needed to settle down, and here we go. Dale Jr.'s in it. Jimmy Johnson.
And Mark Martin's in it. The 6 car
has spun. I don't think he got hit.
And he continues on. I don't know how much damage he has.
Yeah, I just don't.
A developing story concerning another championship contender. The 48 car of Jimmy Johnson has been on and off of pit road because of an overheating problem. Matt Yoakum is watching that pit, and the 48 may be headed your way again, Matt. Here he comes.
Phil, they called him back into the pits. The water had climbed to 280 degrees at one point. A tough break for this driver.
In the running order, did not pit. Oh, trouble behind the leader. Jimmy Johnson, another championship contender across the track to the inside on the grass. Heavy damage. Again for the 48. Trouble in the chase.
Jimmy, talk to us, bud.
In these 6 races, Jimmy Johnson would have 3 DNFs and only have a best finish of 10th and tumble hard down to 4th, 223 points down from leader Jeff Gordon. Something I didn't mention about Dale Jr.'s Talladega win was that in his post-race interview, he would say this on live television.
He wants to win here 5 times. Well, it don't mean shit right now. Daddy's done won here 10 times, so
This would end up making NASCAR penalize him by docking 25 points and would fine him $10,000 for swearing on live television. But, to make things interesting, we are going to rescind Junior's penalty and reinstate his 25 points to his total. And by doing this, it will put him in the point lead by 24 points over now second place Jeff Gordon. The 2 drivers at Charlotte would finish 2nd and 3rd, while Jimmy Johnson would win, with Gordon beating Jr. but not gaining any points on him due to not leading a lap. Meanwhile, tragedy would strike.
12:30 yesterday afternoon, the Hendrick Motorsports Beach 200 disappeared from the radar trying to land at the tiny Blue Ridge Regional Airport outside of Martinsville. Among the 10 killed in the crash, John Hendrick, brother of Rick and president of the company, Ricky Hendrick, Rick's son and retired NASCAR driver.
On the way to the next race at Martinsville, one of Hendrick Motorsports' planes crashed, killing everyone on the plane, including team owner Rick Hendrick's son, Ricky Hendrick. But this tragedy wouldn't hinder the performances of Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson. If anything, this lit a fire underneath both of them. Jimmy Johnson would go on to win the race at Martinsville and then again the next week at Atlanta to make it 3 wins in a row. And would finish 6th at Phoenix, but would win again the next week at Darlington to win the last 4 out of 5 races and put himself back into championship contention. Dale Jr. would wreck out at Martinsville, losing tons of points to Jeff Gordon, putting him back 55 points. The next week at Atlanta, Jr. would finish 33rd, but would be 1 place ahead of Gordon, putting him now just 52 points behind. But both would lose a chunk of points to Jimmy Johnson, who is now just 66 points behind. The next race at Phoenix, Jr. would go on to win, with Gordon finishing 3rd, putting him back by just 32 points and Jimmy Johnson back by 86. With Jimmy winning at Darlington and Jr. finishing 11th and Gordon finishing 3rd, this would set up the championship battle at Homestead, Miami. Gordon led by 52 points over Johnson and 77 points over Jr. This is truly the tale of 3 drivers who have fought tooth and nail for the entire season. with all three being out of the hunt at some point, but it would all come down to one race and only one driver could be the champion. If Jimmie Johnson scored max points, all Gordon would have to do to clinch the title was finish 6th. If Junior wanted to win this championship, he would have to score max points, Johnson would have to finish no higher than 4th, and Gordon would have to finish 17th in order for Junior to win the championship. At Homestead, Jimmie Johnson would qualify a horrible 39th, while his rivals Dale Jr. would qualify in 16th and Gordon would qualify 5th. Junior proved to not be a factor all day, riding between 12th and 25th the whole race and would go on to finish 23rd. Johnson would make a charge toward the front by cracking the top 15 on lap 57 and soon cracking the top 10 on lap 64. Jimmie Johnson would eventually pass Jeff Gordon through a caution sequence where his crew chief Chad Canals would elect not to pit because there was rain in the area. And the rule with rain is that if the race has passed the halfway point, and in this case it did, the race could be decided by a rain out. Jeff Gordon would pit and cycle to 24th while Johnson would cycle out 3rd. If the race were to end right then and there, that would be enough to clinch the championship in Johnson's favor by 22 points. But the rain never came, and Jimmy would fall back on his old tires and Gordon would charge through on his fresh rubber. The race would go on, and Gordon would seem to have the upper hand with running 4th with 15 laps to go and Johnson running 5th. But the caution would come out with 14 laps to go for Martin Truex Jr. blowing a tire, and this would change everything. The race would get back going with 10 to go, and Johnson wouldn't fire off well, losing 3 places in the first corner. But Gordon wouldn't fare much better, with Joe Nemechek getting loose right in front of him, dropping him a place. After everything was settled down and stretched out, Gordon ran 4th and Johnson 5th. It would seem as if that was going to be it until
3 points. And it's not like we haven't seen some flat tires today. There's only 19 points between the top two. Ryan Newman, the leader. Caution flag is out. They have a green light.
Race leader Ryan Newman would blow a tire with just 3 laps to go, causing another caution and a green-white checkered. On the restart, Jeff Gordon's car going to turn 1 would wash up the track due to Greg Biffle and Tony Stewart cutting him off, and Johnson would make an aggressive 3-wide move around the outside to pass Gordon and Stewart, while Biffle moved into the lead. Jeff Gordon would make his way around Stewart into 3rd, and even though Johnson made that impressive move, it would not be enough. Jeff Gordon would clinch his 5th championship in 2004 by 47 points over Jimmie Johnson and 148 over Dale Earnhardt Jr. Kurt Busch would lose his one and only championship without the chase, but would still finish 4th in the standings, 247 points back. Now, how would the season have changed for the contenders? Jeff Gordon, Jimmie Johnson, and Dale Jr. would have all been contenders like they were in real life. But the actual champion, Kurt Busch, wouldn't have even been in the conversation, but would be noted as having a great second half of the season, and be thought of as a contender for 2005. Mark Martin, the long shot in real life, would be nowhere close to championship material all season long. But this isn't to take away from anyone's achievements, instead giving a different view on what could have possibly happened. Well, that will do it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week for 2005.